Today, I'm going to tell you why this vehicle is more environmentally friendly than this vehicle. This one is mine. I drive for fun. I take it to places like Moab and I have a great time with it. But everybody tells me I got to sell it and I got to get something like this because it's the environmentally responsible thing to do. Well, as you do a little bit of research and dig into this, you'll find that that's not true at all. So I'm going to take you on a little trip with me and we can figure out why that might be the case. So why are electric cars all the rage right now? Everybody's got to have one. Hybrid electric. You don't have to pay for gas anymore, or at least a lot less gas in some cases. So you're saving a lot of money that way. They finally look cool. I mean, that is a really pretty vehicle right there. They used to look like a shoe and nobody liked them. Priuses are the butt of many jokes. But now they look gorgeous, you have to admit. Also, celebrities tell you should. Every celebrity's got an electric car or hybrid. It's the responsible thing to do. We're saving the environment. Mike Berners-Lee, author of How Bad Are Bananas? The Carbon Footprint of Everything, has done a great deal of research because you can't just take the carbon footprint of an electric vehicle, which is only about 15% of what a normal vehicle is. That's a huge saving. 85% is huge. But you can't just look at that one thing. So he takes a full snapshot of how much of the carbon footprint you're actually having by owning a vehicle like this and breaks it all down for us. So the biggest carbon footprint in these is actually the manufacturing of them. So 50% of all the carbon footprint in a hybrid electric or electric vehicle comes from the manufacturing. That means stamping out the steel and aluminum, putting together all the wiring that goes in the car, all the electronics that go in there and building those. And it's really hard to quantify all of that, but he's able to take each industry and break it down a little bit. So even making the tires, all of the carbon footprint that goes into that goes into his equations for these. We find out that 50% of the total output comes from just building the car alone. So we'll talk about why that's important in just a minute. Mining the lithium for the batteries is huge. So obviously vehicles like this that do the mining put out a ton of carbon. You end up with huge CO2 emissions and CO emissions from mining the lithium just to build the batteries. Here's another crazy stat for you. You can make 10,000 cell phone batteries for every one lithium battery that goes in a car. They're already seeing that by 2025, the sale of electric cars is going to quadruple. What that means is we're going to end up with a shortage of the lithium for batteries. They're going to have to step up the mining procedures to be able to get it. They can also get it from brine through evaporation of salt. But again, there's all kinds of machinery used in making that process happen. Part of what Mike Berners-Lee talks about is where does the electricity come from to charge these vehicles? So you drive this thing around town and you end up with this beautiful vehicle. You've got a nice battery in it, but it has to be charged. You plug that thing in at home. How are you going to charge it? Where does that electricity come from? Well, it comes off that grid. How does it get put in the grid? In the United States, most of our power for many, many years, for centuries, has come from coal. And the burning of coal is one of the least clean things we do in this country. In 2008, an EPA study showed that although coal only accounted for 49% of the power we were producing, it accounted for 83% of the CO2 emissions caused by electricity generation in that year. So 49% of the electricity created 83% of the pollution. That's a huge deal. So are these cars really saving us anything in pollution emissions in the air? Now, luckily, since 2007, when the coal industry created 49%, it has come down over the years to now we're at about 37%. So the rest of that comes from renewable energy. So the biggest impact you can have if you're considering buying an electric car is actually to keep the car you have for longer. The longer you keep it, the less vehicles have to be manufactured. In fact, that's true with everything that we use. If you can keep something longer, if you can reuse it, if you can repurpose it, you end up having one less of those items produced. And production in this country is really our problem. Everything we produce creates a carbon footprint. And the more things we use up and throw away, the more have to be produced. And that's our biggest issue. The Department of Transportation said that last year, Americans bought 17.2 million cars. And that was actually a down year. Most years, it's a little bit higher than that. It's closer to 18 million. Each American driver drives that car an average of 13,000 miles per year. So if we can keep a car one extra year longer than we're planning on it, then we can lower the number from 17.2 million to anything less. Again, the production is the problem, not necessarily the vehicle and what it's outputting. A drop in the bucket compared to its production. So if you keep a car a little bit longer, you're having a greater impact, even if that car uses gas. The reason that this is still good, though, that we're using this technology, that we're creating these vehicles, is because the industry is driving change and innovation. Innovation will change the world. It always has. So we need this technology to be produced and sold and innovated so that eventually we will catch up with renewable energy so that we have more clean power going into the grid, and we can resupply that and shut down more and more of the coal burning plants to the point where we are getting fully clean energy, and the technology will have caught up at that point. And then we can all get electric cars without worrying about where the electricity comes from and how much pollutant that goes into it. So my challenge is that as you look around and see these beautiful new electric vehicles and have a desire to really help the environment by getting something like that, is to keep your car for one more year than you had planned on it. And every time you see one of these electric cars, think about what you can do today. Recycle some cans or walk to lunch instead of drive, and you'll have a bigger impact over time on the cleanliness of our environment than you would if you went out today and bought a brand new Tesla. And that is the actual truth. Thank you.